are there like deeper systemic flaws, like the entrepreneurs, kind of taking advantage of, the NFTs and blockchain?
Every new technology brings a lot of experimentation, a lot of innovation, and is challenging the existing status quo. Free to play is a leading model. Players, only 1 to 3% of the players are actually paying, and the rest are watching ads. And the ads is basically targeting users based on their preference and behavior using data collected on like how they browse online and so on, to try to sell them other ads, so that game developers actually have to spend money on the ad network to gain players. The developers kept 70% of the revenue that they make. However, out of the 70%, that's not pure profit. They have to pay for the development cost. They have to pay for the user acquisition. User acquisition is essentially they are going to spend their money on the ad network and the platform, App Store, Google, to bring more players to them. So in the end, sometimes the top grossing and most developers, they would spend 50%, 70% of that money back into user acquisition, which go back to the platform.
Thank you for joining Once Changing the World. I'm your host, Eddie Avil, and today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Sebastian Borget, who's the co-founder and the global ambassador of Sandbox, a virtual platform where players can create, play, own, govern, and monetize their experiences using NFTs and Sand, the utility token of the platform. He's also the co-founder of Artverse, a digital art gallery and house of culture. His contributions to the crypto and blockchain space have garnered significant recognition, including being named on Cointelegraph's top 100 most influential people in crypto for the year 2022. So, Sebastian, really appreciating time being part of the podcast. Wanted to start with Sandbox. What's been happening? The latest update. Because there's been like a shake off of sorts, and you've transitioned from the COO to global ambassador. Like what we hear is that over half of the employees has been laid off. The founders have been removed. Animoca's CEO Robbie Young has stepped into place, and at least 5 offices are closed. And apparently, there's a meme coin which is supposed to be launched, which is in the works. So I don't really know. These are the news. Would love to hear it from you. What's the update? Yeah.
So maybe before we jump straight on, like for anyone who's not familiar with what is Sandbox, like the short story of what it is, like this decentralized virtual world where anyone can be a creator and make 3D content of cool games and experience. We're mostly known for all our 400 major brands partnership, and we've grown to over 8 million users. We also have like a token called Sand, which is one of the top 100 cryptocurrencies in the world. And like, like the success story of Sandbox has always been like our key focus around like user generated content. We started that in 2011, first with a mobile game that enabled people to make 2D pixelated world. Then we launched around 2018 the blockchain 3D virtual world version. After the mobile game had like a large success with 40 million downloads, 17 million made creations by those players and creators. And um, we've grown Sandbox into one of the largest Web3 based decentralized platforms. Recently, some news like came out and like didn't really reflect what truly happened. Is like my co-founder Arthur Madrid, who took the role of chairman of the Sandbox, and myself, we remain very involved into like what's happening in the project and how we're evolving the platform, the Sandbox, to its like next phase. And the next phase of Sandbox is going to introduce like new product that will have like a lot of AI related. I've been very excited about everything related to vibe coding, which I think I spoke numerous events, possibilities of just typing and like it prompts games, writing the code for you, and it's fun to experiment with. We'll be launching new version of Sandbox that are like mobile compatible, have better performance and so on. And we're launching as well a new season 6 that's coming this mid of September and will last for 9 weeks with over 30 experiences featuring some of the top brands they introduced before, like Casio G-Shock of Cirque du Soleil. Now, like Sandbox as well, like over the years, what we found is like we've been really improving the quality of what we are doing. We've been able to reduce the time it takes us as well to produce those seasons, to produce those updates from our no game code game maker tool and so on. And so we've been also like readjusting, taking into account like the impact of AI and those efficiencies in operation to like adjust like the staff and to adjust and be able to focus on the right direction for like the development of like those new products that we'll be introducing. As a global ambassador, I remain like the public face and like the voice as I just come back this morning from Hong Kong. I was speaking at the War Summit right a few days before. I was speaking at Taipei Blockchain Week. So I keep sharing the vision of Sandbox. I keep sharing some of the updates, like the season upcoming and like all, and working on also new initiative that will expand the Sandbox ecosystem, that will expand the utility for the Sand token and all the other assets that we're producing, and always very aligned with the vision we had from the beginning to empower anyone to become a creator. So rest assured, like we're growing Sandbox, we're pushing new product, new update. We're not launching a meme coin. That I don't know where that's coming from. There are project that will probably be in the direction of enabling our creators to monetize better, to engage better their audience, to introduce ways for like having more sustainable gameplay and sustainable monetization, because those are like core topics that have always been at the heart of like what we are thinking. It's great that we enable creators to make their games for the first time. So we onboarded millions of first-time creators, but we also need to provide them the solution so they can actually make a living and have like a sustainable um, like participation that hopefully they can make a living from and turn what's a hobby or a passion into like a real full-time job.
So, Sebastian, first of all, really appreciate you giving out the clarification that the plans ahead looks super awesome. Leveraging AI and vibe coding, and I think that artificial intelligence is completely transforming the world. Wanted to kind of understand, that like moment, when you kind of like said, okay, let's kind of build a sandbox. What was that nudge to kind of do that? To build a blockchain powered metaverse, and will also be great if you could explain, I mean, when you guys launched in around 2022, you mentioned, 8 million users, that you have on the platform. In around 2022, there was around 200,000 monthly active users, and today, there's just a few thousand which is left. What do you think was the main problem for this user attrition?
Like what was really driving us from the beginning is like this idea that anyone can be a creator. They don't need to know any specific programming skill, code. They could make games. And that's where Sandbox started. Always started from the creative side, providing tools for people to make their own games, their own experience. It's fun, it's exciting, it's appealing to a broader audience, and we were one of the pioneers in user-generated content on mobile back in 2011, and again on blockchain in 2017-18. The use of the blockchain really came as a solution to one of the issues that we encountered the most, which was like, how do we share back the value that those players who making great games, great content, contributing to the success, including the financial success of the mobile game, how could we give them back to them a portion of that? And we were struggling about it. When like Sandbox was a mobile game on the App Store or Google Play Store, we had no way to send payments to our players or our creators. Actually, I had to find out the name of the top creators which were sharing content on this online gallery, try to match it with like I was Googling, trying to find if they are like a social profile that match the same nickname, find a way to contact them or an email address to send them like a contract and then to send them manually payment using PayPal. That was just like unmanageable, like very slow, very inefficient. I could handle maybe 100 creator a month that way. And so when we found about blockchain technology and NFTs, we really saw the solution to that problem. And essentially, like enabling with NFT, like anyone could sell their work on the marketplace without anyone else in the middle, and that could scale, and they could receive payment immediately using cryptocurrency. that was like that hey moment where like, wow, like the technology can really solve at scale this problem we have. And we've been enabling creators to sell and launch experiences on their land and sell various NFT. However, we also found some limitation to that. Like if you look like NFTs, they are like scarce digital assets. There's always like a limited supply to it. And you cannot just keep monetizing by introducing new NFTs all the time. So we realize as well that for creators on Sandbox to be sustainable, they could not just live and depend on like receiving rewards from the platform when they participate in game jam, in hackathon, in builder challenge, and so on. They have to develop their own tools, their own business model to engage their audience and to monetize. And so engaging an audience meaning like you have to build a community, acquire users, retain users, and find ways that they keep coming back into your game, and you reward them for doing that. You couldn't do it with NFT because, like again, the limited supply of token and so on. And so we're working on like how we are addressing those issues, those challenges. And the next phase of Sandbox will give more and more power to creators for them to engage, retain their user base, and monetize. Now, to your second point, one of the strengths of Sandbox has been to bring brands for the first time to Web3 and the Metaverse and to attract millions of users to play and participate during seasons. Those seasons, we've run 5 already. Usually they last a few weeks. And during those few weeks, we introduce a lot of rewards for the player, a lot of brands coming out together, and a battle pass where players have to progress, exploring and completing quests, sometimes purchasing NFTs or an alpha pass to earn the reward or to unlock even more quests. It's an exciting gameplay that brought in the past several hundred of thousands of users to play across a month or 2 months in general. It's true that when there are no seasons, there is less traffic. There is still traffic on the platform, but it's very dependent on those seasons. Right now, the seasons were really built by us, curated by us. Ultimately, in a model where like a platform is fully decentralized, we need to provide the tools and the abilities for any creator to launch their content, to engage with rewards, and even to design new system and mechanics that could be different than ours so they can grow and engage their audience again. So that's something like we constantly have in mind. Like the end goal for Sandbox is not just to have a virtual world which is entirely curated and managed by ourselves and where like seasons are the main driver of traffic. This is just one portion of what Sandbox is right now. The goal is to evolve it in a platform where like not just virtual world voxel-based game will exist, but many other games and applications can be built, leveraging some of the content made on Sandbox, the tokens such as sand, the land, the avatars, and offering experiences where users can move their identity and their asset across different games and can expand with different possibilities their own models for monetization and engagement.
Sebastian, I mean, we all know at this point in time, I mean, blockchain and metaverse, these technologies, just maybe like a few years back, they were the in thing, but that's no longer the case. At this point in time, I mean, both like blockchain, metaverse, is going towards winter. But I personally kind of believe that the blockchain and decentralized technology, I think, is one of the most important ethos as well as technologies in recent history. From your perspective, can you like unpack the fundamental principles of both blockchain and decentralization? And what do you think contributed to the setback of the blockchain adoption? Do you think was it the unchecked surge of NFT hype, the ICU boom, and the scams that followed, or are there like deeper systemic flaws? Like the entrepreneurs, kind of taking advantage of the NFTs and blockchain.
So those are very good question. I think like essentially what you're describing is like there like a core trust problem in this industry or not? Let me maybe rewind back a little bit around like the benefits of blockchain. Like the main benefit of that blockchain brings and the decentralization brings are the following. One is ownership, digital ownership. We never had before any proper digital ownership. Any content that we bought within video games, such as the currency, the game items, etc., they were never ever truly ours, in a way that you could not send it to other players, you could not sell them anywhere, and if you left the game, you essentially lost everything. If the game closed as well, and sometimes even worse, like the developer could take away or change the balance of the game, remove some of the assets that you own and so on. That was actually the story of how like Vitalik Buterin and Ethereum came out to think about Ethereum as like when he was playing World of Warcraft, and some of these avatar and quests had been changed by the developer without his consent. Now with ownership, you have the ability to like own those assets, use them in one game, but technically across many other games. This is called interoperability. Resell it for profit or not for profit. Actually, I believe like one of the strengths of blockchain and NFT is that instead of selling for zero, which is like the case in 99% of games now, you could sell it at even 10% of the price you paid. It's better than nothing. However, as soon as money is involved, a lot of people have been looking at financial like profit, turning it into profit and speculation. We've seen that as well. Now we are starting to see it everywhere, like collectible cards, like Pokemon, plushies and toys, even the Labubus. People are buying them using the gacha mechanic of like, oh, I got a rare one and I'm going to sell it at a profit because there is high demand. Sometimes it's good having this speculative aspect and profit aspect because it drives the attention of a lot of players. But if you lose money at the end, like you are less likely to keep participating. And that's maybe where like trust issue is being created, because when there is too much abuse, trust issue, or scam or rugs, like you mentioned, users are being burnt. They are no longer coming back into these industries, are not going to try again, and so on. This is not specific to blockchain only, and by the way, like in the free-to-play game industry, we used to have soft launch. Soft launch is basically we launch a game that looks like the final version of a game in a test market. Usually it's been the Philippines in the past or Canada. And and at any point of time, but we use the developer were using it to measure like the KPI, like retention, conversion, and so on. And if the game was not performing well, or if well, they were shutting down those games. And so anyone who played the game and made real purchase, they didn't know it was like a test game. They spent real money, and the developer, they on purpose, they knew that they will never maintain those versions. They will keep making change to adapt, to collect data, which is very unfair. You think about that. Back to another benefit of blockchain beyond ownership, I think is like creating the network effect and like how value is growing to the participants in the network. Usually when you distribute or publish a game on a store, well, the store itself takes 30% commission. It varies nowadays. It's a much lower on certain store like Epic Store versus Steam versus type of good play, but let's say it's 30%. And the developers keep 70%. And the reason is because um, the stores bring the distribution, they bring the user base. So if you launch your game or your application on a store, you're guaranteed to get a number of players, a number of installs of your game for free. Which is less the case right now because you have to spend in marketing as well. But with Web3, you can actually reward the participation from the users who contribute by downloading, by playing, by bringing and inviting other users directly without the need of those stores. And so like you can shift the value distribution between the game developer and the players and other contributors who are owning the asset, owning the NFT, the members of the community who also like produce content in the form of time spent, texts, FAQs, answering to other players, producing sometimes media, video, photo, etc. on social media, which also part of the value chain in video game. Like we know that the way that games get players is also from like the Discord channel, the Twitch stream, the YouTube stream, people who talk about the game and like about it. But you get that value back. And as you own the asset of the game, or you own the token that participates into the decentralized economy of the game, you also bring value, and that value is being rewarded through the intrinsic value of the ownership of the asset. That's something important. Imagine Roblox or Minecraft were paying back every single of the early users or end users who contributed to the success of those games that are now worth multi-billion dollar, instead of just taking their money as payers and giving them nothing else, then there would be a more fair model. And so that's really the two key pillars I see as beneficial of why use blockchain technology. The third, I would say, is like the innovation behind. Like every new technology brings a lot of experimentation, a lot of innovation, and is challenging the existing status quo, which has been existing for now 15 years in the mobile game industry, where free to play um, is a leading model. Players, only 1 to 3% of the players are actually paying, and the rest are watching ads. And the ads is basically targeting users based on their preference and behavior using data collected on like how they browse online and so on, to try to sell them other ads so that game developers actually have to spend money on the ad network to gain players. Remember I said before, 70%, the developers kept 70% of the revenue um, that they make. However, out of the 70%, that's not pure profit. They have to pay for the development cost. They have to pay for the user acquisition. User acquisition is essentially they are going to spend their money on the ad network and the platform, App Store, Google, to bring more players to them. So in the end, sometimes the top grossing and most developers, they would spend 50%, 70% of that money back into user acquisition, which go back to the platform. So like they are left with very little, even though they are the one that contribute to the value of the platform. A platform with no content has no value. There's always this balance between great technology, great content, great user base and ecosystem. So that's really my view on the matter. I do think like, yes, projects that are highly speculative, we've seen meme coin, we've seen the Trump coin, for example. They are, they, they don't really carry a good image of what the technology can bring. Yes, you can earn a revenue, but if you make a loss, you're a user who like been burned and you're not going to come back at all. And so we as an industry, we're developing great game, we're developing metaverse experience and so on with real utility behind. We're no longer being able to convince those users who lost money with a easy money scheme that sometimes those meme coin and other projects provide, to get them into like adopting the technology and so on. So the technology, it's still in a phase of early adoption. I believe like we've made great progress, like UI, UX, wallet interface are much easier than ever to use, but there are still sometimes projects that don't like really benefit. And so a meme coin launchpad is kind of like the antithesis of like what we would like to do. We need to make sure that if we introduce product or if we introduce things that they will benefit the creator first, they will be trustworthy so like users, like there is a benefit, real value for users without the risk that make users be able to be burnt by the process or like not enjoy anymore like interacting with the technology.
You rightfully pointed out, I think, these centralized, organizations have forever like squeezed the developer, the artist, and the content creators. The hope was that the metaverse and the blockchain would be the savior, but it seems like we are in the a rock and a hard place, because the promise was decentralization, and that was just a narrative. There is no decentralization. The promise for the metaverse was interoperable and open metaverse. There is no interoperable and open metaverse at this point in time. What I see is possibly, maybe this convergence, that XR and that AI and this blockchain convergence could possibly that be that sign of recovery for maybe the metaverse. What are your thoughts? Do you think this XR AI convergence could possibly bring us out from the current metaverse winter? And if it does, what are your predictions for the next wave of the platform builders and users?
When you think about it, the metaverse was essentially pushed. The idea of the metaverse was it existed for a long time. It came out from a book and so on, but when Facebook rebranded itself in 2021 into Meta, like it pushed a vision of the metaverse that was very XR, VR focused, with great marketing, great visual, but a very poor delivery behind into like the product, the actual experience. And the gap was so far between like what you were seeing in the TV commercial, all the ads across Instagram or newspaper, and the reality of like the social network they provided, where Avatar had even no legs and they looked like graphics from the 80s. Like users were like not excited at all, and we understand why. Today, and it's been 5 years, so the technology has really matured a lot. Like if you look and you enter today, Sandbox, Fortnite, Roblox, or even the Meta Horizon world, the experience is much better. The graphics are better, multiplayer is better, social is better, it's more fun. It's playable across different devices, different depending on those platforms, but PC and mobile remain essentially the leading platform for the users. And so it's quite normal that because it was so ambitious, the vision that was projected, that like the experience can only be deceptive. You know, since I'm 40 years old, in the 80s, there were already a lot of science fiction movie where we were seeing flying cars in Metropolis and so on. I still don't see flying cars out there. I know it will come, but I was maybe a bit too ambitious. That even 50 years later, like that's not happened. Here, I don't think it will necessarily take 50 years to achieve the vision of the Ready Player One movie, what was in the book, what Facebook was proposing. I think AI is definitely going to accelerate a few parts of it, which can be like the content creation via vibe coding or via like generative AI that create content and worlds. Via AI NPCs, AI agent and companion that can populate those worlds, give you like a variety of quests, change the gameplay and make it more diverse, or even like start participating into the economy by having different strategies, collecting resources, putting those resources for sale on the marketplace to increase the liquidity and the availability of certain items and so on. But it always will come down to also economical reasons behind of whether it will be a success or not. AI comes with a cost. You have to decide who is going to bear that cost. Is it the game developer or the platform that are operating, or is it the end user who are like participating and enjoying? So for those benefits, like that AI can bring, how many of us are ready to pay $10, $20 more a month, for example, to have like an agent that plays for us or have an AI companion in some game and so on? We have to wait like the economics decrease for those experience, so it's becoming much more mainstream and cheaper, or we have to see a real benefit that translate that it's a great experience, it's a greater experience, but it's also like it brings me potentially more revenue as I enjoy playing because of the agent of the AI. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of the AI games or use games that use AI. They haven't found yet like a model where players are ready to pay more, except like games which are like dating simulation, like virtual boyfriend, virtual girlfriend games. Like people are ready to pay $100 a year, sometimes more, to keep engaging and interacting in this kind of gameplay, which is interesting. That's probably the first phase, and we have to keep iterating and experimenting, I think, here until we figure out like an exact model where we strike the right balance between like it's a great on the technological side and it's a great benefit that people are willing to spend for and keep playing.
You mentioned that, I mean, metaverse and blockchain, I mean, the frictions have reduced, it's reduced, I would say, but then, the friction still remains, there are like, concurrent users, that it's still a problem. The graphics, the fidelity is still a problem. The onboarding of, users, it's quite complicated, specifically for, blockchain. Then, when you look at metaverses, the AR, VR headsets, these still are expensive. I mean, when you compare this to these 2D apps, the 2D apps are like as simple as possible, no friction whatsoever. What's your intuit over here? When do you think that we might have the onboarding and the graphic fidelity, maybe like photorealistic world, these metaverse virtual worlds, and no friction onboarding, with blockchain? What's your intuit? What's the timelines do you think it'll take for it to become as simple as a 2D app?
Well, it's evolved insanely. Like right now, you take blockchain gaming, like there's never been as many users that are like playing games, interacting with blockchain. On one side, you have games like Gunzilla on Avalanche, which are like over 17 million users and millions of active every month. It's a triple A shooting game, so that's one side. And on the other side, you have games on Telegram network, on Ton, which are also played by 10 of millions of users, and they look like very simple, hyper casual 2D games inside the messaging app. Very seamless. The wallet is there. You can give token, you can collect badge, and so on. And sometimes you don't even know you're interacting with blockchain. I think it's already happening, basically. Like we don't really need to wait. Like we're starting to see that transformation where the blockchain is more seamlessly integrated across those apps. Players are not distinguishing the quality of the game, no matter the here, like the kind of players, casual versus more pro gamer, console, esport shooting game, typically. They're having fun with both. They're spending on both as well. Like it's important as well to ensure like sustainability of some of those games. And so it's great. And in general, like we're seeing like a greater focus from the industry on like not just like distributing rewards and tokens and ending up being like a zero sum game like it was in the early days of play to earn. But we are seeing like a focus of game developer in measuring for every token they distribute, how much of that token is going to get back into the game economy by having the players spend to acquire item, to acquire battle pass or other sort of content that keep them engaged and give them like reason even more benefits in the gameplay.
Sebastian, with this new change that you mentioned within the sandbox, what's the strategic roadmap, for driving growth? Will we see like deeper focus on user and creator incentives? Would you be expanding brands, partnerships, or launching more diverse games and interactive experiences? Is there something that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I think like we've launched recently a new version of like the sandbox game maker, and it's the 0.12. It added a lot of
Mhm.
um, new abilities. So avatars like they can fly, they can jump, they can dance, they can do a lot of new actions, which also is a way to express yourself. Um, More multiplayer gameplay, more ability to customize your interface as a creator, the rules of the game, and so on. Those are like uh, features that were requested by the community. And so we're working closely to the creators to see like what they need the most in terms of development, and we can provide with the tool. That's the first thing. Now, I also think like GameMaker is great, but ultimately it's never meant to replace Unity or Unreal itself. It's just a way to make game creation much simpler for most of the users. So we should look as well at how we enable the more traditional developers that already know programming and can use Unity, Unreal, and other engine to make application, be able to interact with the sandbox brands or sandbox asset or the sand token and launch their content. And so one of the things we'll be announcing in a couple of weeks will also enable more freedom for any builder, any content creator to interact with the sandbox in general and to launch their own content.
Interesting, interesting. Seb, what's been the most successful monetization opportunities for Sandbox so far, and what new monetization avenues excites you the most, and which monetization experiment in the Sandbox surprised you the most? Regardless of whether it succeeded or failed.
With the DAO of Sandbox, we have it's quite interesting. Like, we on one side we develop Sandbox with the platform, currently the tools, game maker, the map, the marketplace, and so on. But we also over a year and a half ago we introduced the DAO, and this DAO has been supporting over 30 plus projects, giving them grants. Among those projects, certain tools are being developed by the community itself. There are third-party tools like Magic Palettes, Magic Blocks, which is um, a tool that allows you to create lands on Sandbox, to create content on Sandbox, not developed by a team, but developed by the community. So in a different way, and which was which is based on the feedback of the community as well. And it's exciting to see like these tools are quite efficient and our creators love them. For me, that's showing that really the direction of like that Sandbox should be taking is opening itself as much as possible to keep enabling community to contribute, to build their own tool, to expand on what we have. Leveraging essentially the core brand, the partnership, the sand, the land, the avatar, but not necessarily forcing content creator to use only one tool to create and make games. So this openness is at the core of the metaverse. I believe like once the assets we were talking about interoperability before, I believe it's one of the exciting opportunity. Interoperability is not just about like uh, a theoretical possibility, it's becoming real. Like the same asset can be used across different tools. If you make a content with Vox Edit, it's already usable on Unity, on Unreal, on Magic Palette, on the Sandbox. I've seen other games that start to use it. Ourselves as well. We've been working and I did a lot of blue chip NFT collection, like Cool Cat, Bored Ape, and over 30 collection, which if you own those NFT, you could turn them into playable character on Sandbox and play around and receive rewards and benefit. I think it's been great as well. It's like been a great showcase. And I know that there are platform and project as well, like Fortnite, which are aiming at like making like game asset usable across a lot of different engine and platform. So the vision of Metaverse is still a strong one. It takes time to build, but it also needs like people who wants to do it and like and to see the benefit of doing it. And we start to see those uh, good reason that justify like yes, them will be happening. Maybe it will be simple at the beginning, but soon it will become also like a standard and something that players will expect across different games.
Right. Yeah. There is so much potential for the metaverse. And I think this binding together, making it open, cross platform, interoperable, once it like completely takes shape where, maybe if I've got like a certain asset and avatar and if I can take it across all the platforms, I think, what a beautiful world that would be. Are there any creator story from the Sandbox community which is personally kind of, caught your attention, like maybe unsung heroes from the Sandbox, that you would like to share with the audience?
There's plenty. Every creator that's like I've been like for example, we had like the Sandbox Awards last year in December, both in LA and Paris. Seeing like the community of creator receiving those owners, receiving those prize for their contribution, it's been amazing. I know that some of the creators, like their situation, specifically around COVID, they lost their job, some of them lost their home, but suddenly they got passionate about game making and they found out like Sandbox was a platform that delivered like new opportunities in life for them, new jobs. They were able to work for some of the best brands in the world. So they've been always thankful for that. And I'm thankful to have been able to bring like people from such diverse background from all around the world to create content that we cannot find on other platforms. Um, when I was in Philippines, there was this documentary called Metaverse Filipino Workers, where like there were children, girls at St. Mary Church private school. Those girls, they live on less than $1 per day. Usually, they don't have access to school because they have to work for their families to support them. Those girls have been supported by this private school charity, and one of the programs they participated into, that's shown in the documentary, was actually learning making games with Vox Edit and the Sandbox. I wasn't aware at all that like that school implemented Sandbox. I actually found it during the movie premiere. And that was very heartwarming to see that those girls suddenly had like new hopes, new expectation in life that because they were given a chance to try a tool that now like they believe they can make video game, they cannot dream of it. I don't know if they will make it their job in the future, but it really opened a whole new way of them for seeing opportunities in life and like they are not constrained all their life to live in the situation they were born into. So it's very important as well. I think it's not just Sandbox, it's Web3 in general has brought a lot of opportunities for people. I've seen we have made projects as well, creating game with some of the favorite brand fans. I think I've been very excited to be able to interact with the content and character from their favorite brand and turn their own stories, their own game. I know people who found their first job thanks to Sandbox. They interviewed in the Metaverse and then they became the head of Web3 department in some large company in Hong Kong. Every little story matter. So actually, I would encourage like people who watch this episode, if by any chance Sandbox brought anything good to them, please share. Happy to add it to my list of stories.
Thank you for sharing this wonderful story. I think the metaverse is getting more and more number of users. The numbers are growing. The age group, I think from 12 to 30 is increasingly spending more and more time on gaming platforms. These virtual worlds such as Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, and of course the Sandbox. How do you see the brands responding to this massive opportunity? Where these captive TG is transitioning and spending more and more time on the virtual world. What would be your advice for brands, aiming to authentically engage and build lasting connections with this, big TG, which is living their life and experiencing things on the virtual world and virtual platforms?
Yes, I think like there's been a lot of excitement from various brands around 2021. They stepping into Metaverse, and like they didn't really know what to do into it. So I think like my number one recommendation is like you should use the Metaverse to like expand your brand in the most authentic way. So if you're trying to do something you're not, first of all, like your fans will not recognize it. They will not understand why you're doing it. They will think you're just surfing on the marketing hype and it will not be successful. Metaverse and video games in general, they are like a great place to drive more engagement and more attention. Typically, when brands want to reach to their fan and their audience, they post on social media. On social media, the average attention span is like few seconds to a minute. You post a video. If someone watched more than 1 minute of your video, wow, like you've done great. So how do you communicate a message? How do you promote something in a good way when you have just a few seconds of user attention? With video games, people spend 30 minutes, 1 hour on average interacting, discovering, learning while enjoying, having fun, and so on. So a lot of brands have found success into like integrating their world, their culture, their stories, their universe into a video game where players have to complete quests and action while they educate themselves about the product or the value of the brand and so on. The best example of brands that work really well for us have been like electronic artists, like music artists, DJs, electronic artists, uh, fashion brand, gaming brand, obviously, like collaboration from Atari, Jurassic World, where fans were able to like grow a dinosaur park, collect dinosaurs. Gucci, where like we were able to really expand one of the few physical place, the Gucci Vault, into metaverse, allow people to learn more about the craft, the history. Lacoste as well, Charles and Keith, just to name a few names. Recently, we introduced the Cirque du Soleil in Sandbox, and they will be featured in the Alpha Season 6. That's coming in mid September. And like the way it carries all the art and the universe of circus and put it into a game where players are interacting with, it's been fantastic. I can't wait for people to play it and discover it. Sports as music artists really work well because you have fans who tend to only be able to interact during limited amount of time during the concert where they can see the physical their artist if they can, because it's quite expensive. You have to travel to pay the ticket and so on. And now like you can extend your fandom by also engaging into virtual experience, having access to exclusive content, meeting other fans, chatting with them in social experiences and games, collecting digital content as well, and proving that you have great knowledge of like who the artist, the music band is. And that's really what fans want in general. Like they don't just want to have like a virtual avatar replica, but they love like that perform like concert in video. No, like they want more playful experiences. They want to play and identify as a celebrity. So avatar collection have been very successful on Sandbox, and one way that brands have found success really to launch in the metaverse, and a lot of other activation. Many of them we've done featured into the alpha season, which have been receiving like great reception.
Wanted to get your thoughts on the future of money, because Bitcoin, right now it's 100,000 USD. You have your own token, Sand token. How has it evolved over the years? And with this AI kind of taking over, because there is this fear which is there, that eventually AI is going to take away all of your jobs, specifically the content creators. I mean, not just content creators, everything. Because today the AI does so many things. In that world, do you think cryptocurrency is gonna play a big role, and maybe sand token sand could become like a mainstream currency?
So I believe like the Sand token will become some of like a universal gaming token that will be accepted by many games. And why is that? Because it will also bring players which have like great value in their wallet and ready to spend in game. And it also means like attracting more users and players. So that's exciting. Now, AI has been essentially a cost cutter right now, like a cost cutter, sorry. Basically, going back to one of our previous points, people are not ready to pay more for AI experience and AI tools and so on. There's also even sometimes like this wrong idea that AI is so commoditized that it's free. It's accessible everywhere. It can be used everywhere, but there's always a cost behind, like the business, the GPU, the computing, the storage, the electricity. Business needs to pay for and so on. So in the enterprise world, AI has been replacing some of the simplest tasks and like in companies to be more efficient, reducing the redundant, boring work, and accelerating their access to certain aspect of content creation. But AI also demonstrated that you need human behind to always like adjust the prompt, keep creating, and so on. So it's a companion. Just like the level of like certain tasks that were boring and repetitive are being replaced so that we can focus on being more creative with AI as a tool by our side. Ultimately, I don't think AI will be there is this first phase where like it seems AI is more destructive in terms of job than it it will be in the future. But I also think like as we evolve with AI, we'll learn new skills and ultimately we'll find the right balance and the right profile um, for the jobs industry.
Right. I really, really hope so, because from my perspective, how I see is, obviously the cost of the AI is actually coming down. And there's so many things going on in the AI. One is artificial intelligence, there's generative AI, which is doing, text to image, text to 3D, text to video, text to world building. Then there is also world modeling. It's a new thing, where Genie 3 is basically like a world model. You put in input an image, and that image becomes like a playable world. So sometimes I kind of wonder, like, with this acceleration of artificial technology, how is it going to like impact us? I mean, from the content creators to the platform, and people in general, because AI, the way it works is, you throw in more data, and it kind of scales, and also has these emergent properties. And obviously, there's a certain group of people who are saying that, okay, can we build general purpose intelligent machines? And that also seems to be something at one point in time, like, maybe if 5 or 10 years back, maybe if we said that, AGI, people would laugh at it. But then there are, people at the cutting edge of AI research is saying, yes, maybe in the next 5 years or 10 years or maybe 15 years, or sooner possibly, we could also build artificial general intelligence. And even, we're not even going to artificial general intelligence. Even the narrow AI at this point in time is creating so much disruption. Like I said, these world models, which is interactable, playable worlds. I mean, what happens to gaming engines? Because we have built these gaming engines, Unity, Unreal, Omniverse, and so on and so forth. What happens to the world? I mean, do you kind of think about, how it's going to impact creators, the platforms, gaming engine, when these things starts evolving with, more data? It's like a like you feed in more data, it becomes it performs better.
Well, I think like there is a lot of untapped opportunity right now, like in the way like how we're exploiting data, how like the interaction we're having and the value that's left. So we're going back again, like looking back in history, you look at um, game economies. In game economies, we were just hitting the surface of it. Like we never tap in the secondary markets. Secondary market before, when you were buying a premium game, you were buying the box, $50, $60, and you were able to sell it back on the market. So like the second-hand economy became mainstream. Was not the case before. Like nobody was buying second-hand product and games, but now it's standard. Same with now, like with blockchain gaming, we've made more standard, and everyone gets accustomed to the idea that game asset, game content can be sold, and there is an economy that comes from that. Soon in the future, it will be like just the norm, and nobody will wonder like, can I sell that game item or not? That's just a feature that the technology enables. With AI, we're discovering that there's even more value in the data, and like we're trying to make more sense of the data. And there's companies that are now valued billion, where like data labeling, that identifying the data to train better the AI behind and define like how it can be used and what it enables. It's going to keep expanding in that direction. And how so it's always interesting to look at the fact that there will be um, new business model that emerge that distribute better the value among like the different actors, or untapped data that we never found that actually existed, or that can be monetized, and it's going to like break through the previous model. So that's why I remain very bullish on the fact that there is a better future that's coming, which include not only a core technology like AI, like blockchain, but also there are like new business model that's going to emerge, that can only emerge through a lot of experimentation and failure, by the way, that are coming as well.
What would be your advice to first-time builders who are kind of tinkering around and building metaverses? And what's your vision? What do you see the next 5 years or 10 years for metaverse as well as Sandbox?
Well, first time builder, I think like the access to technology and development is becoming so commoditized. It's becoming easier and easier to create both like graphic content, but also to write app and code with vibe coding. Um, so it's always an exciting time to come, but you also have to think like there is more competition than ever. There is more like commoditized content available than ever. So how do you really distinguish yourself? What's your value proposition? The fundamentals remains even more important. You have to develop for like the right market fit, have a great go-to-market, and understand the need of your audience. Don't be theoretical. I love to always challenge founders and recommend founders about the fact that, like, well, you have a great idea, great concept, but it's just an idea. Now, like, launch an MVP, prove me like there is some users who are ready to be convinced by your product, your service, who are ready to pay for it. Interview your users. Ask them constantly what they like, what they don't like. Understand your audience. I think like the main mistake, like we're so used to the technology and like everything will unfold because some models have shown us that we tend to forget like who we're building it for, and ensuring that we collect constantly the feedback to make sure like the product have like a great future and will address a problem for an audience that is large enough to monetize. Where the metaverse is coming in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to be an even bigger acceleration and giant leap from what we've seen. Because I look at what we've done over the past 5 years and 10 years. I remember the first version of Sandbox, and it's just night and day. And now, like, technology keep accelerating. It's year after year trying to play Sandbox again and see what we've done. I say, oh wow, like the graphic have improved, the loading speed, and so on. I'm excited by the ability to have Sandbox directly on mobile, to have Sandbox, which like with more fun and greater multiplayer experience, to have better graphic because like the core technology we'll use will change. To explore world built or co-built with AI, leveraging template libraries of assets that we provide, and vibe coding. Exciting to have new ways to interact with Sandbox, which are maybe not just the voxel game maker we have right now. I'm excited to see just our Sand token used across thousands of other games and applications and bring distribution, bring users, because it become like a universally accepted currency for games. There are also a few things that I'm excited about, and it would be step by step, but every step matter to like building that bigger vision.
Thank you, Seb, for taking time and being part of the podcast. And yes, I think this convergence of sorts, like metaverse, blockchain, and AI is going to play a huge a role. Maybe when Facebook kind of rebranded to Meta, I think there was a huge hype. But at that point of time, maybe the technology itself was not ready. Right now, I think all the different tech stack which is needed to create a coherent virtual world is all there and it's all binding together. What a wonderful world it will be once we get into a decentralized, interoperable, and open metaverse which is built on blockchain, and then it's empowered by AI. And I think we're getting closer and closer. And thank you for building Sandbox. I think it's one of the most loved platform for metaverse. Wish you the very best for the upcoming seasons. And to my listener, if you like what you see and hear, then please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you.